Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and I have got Kelvin back to visit. Hi, Kelvin.
Hey Josh, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Pull that down like towards your
Okay.
mouth area.
Okay,
There you
great.
go. We're getting a little set up here. Kelvin's been on the podcast a couple times. If you guys want to go back and hear him, he is on episode 208 and 271. He is the counselor for a new U counseling center here in Florence
hmm
and is starting off on a new venture,
Absolutely.
doing a little public speaking
Yeah.
and trying to bring awareness to people about their mental health, right?
Absolutely.
So you want to talk a little more about that?
Yes. So I'm excited to talk about that. So can you hear me good, right?
I can hear you
Yeah, okay,
fine.
great. So
Can you hear you?
we're still getting adjusted to
I
this.
can
So
I
yeah,
can move knobs.
yeah. Okay, great. So Kelvin Durant here with the New You Counseling Center. And also the newly a New You Speaks. Very excited about this new business venture. It's something that I have been thinking about for a while, and it actually has made it into fruition. And so I'm very happy about that. So a New You Speaks is I'm acting in the capacity as a advocate, an educator, and an overall influencer promoting mental health services. Um, I decided to do this when I start looking at the themes of clients, coming into my current practice, and some people are very hesitant about seeking mental health services because of so many stigmas associated with it. So I decided that, hey, I'm going to start something new here, and decided to put this business forth and go out. And the crazy thing is that, and I think I told you this before, that I'm really an introvert by nature.
Yeah.
So um, when I decided to do this, I was slapping myself in the face, like, "Are you really doing this? Are you really going to go out and partake in speaking engagements and promoting mental health service?" And absolutely, I am, and I'm excited about it. And so yeah, New You Speaks is born. I actually launched uh, the business last week. I had a marketing team. Shout out to Nine Owl Productions. They're here in Florence. Leroy Gibson and Ivy Ingram did an amazing job with establishing the content, like the flyers. I did a video promoting the new business. They did an amazing job. 9 Hour Production.
Got your own Facebook page for it too.
Yeah, have our own Facebook page for it. A New You Speaks Facebook page. I have an Instagram page for it as well. Crazy thing is, I never had an Instagram before. so, so with this new business, I decided to get an Instagram as well as, and I also added my existing business on Instagram as well, which is a New You Counseling Center. So yeah, when you go to Instagram, look up those two business pages, and you'll find some information out. So the New You Speaks page is just still getting started, promoting just the business, advertising content, just talking about mental health, and trying to start getting some speaking engagements. But yeah, I'm excited about this.
Well, and right now, especially, I mean, there's a lot of things going on where, COVID is sort of going away a little bit. We are seeing people get back to some sort of normalcy without the
Mm-hmm,
masks in public
mm-hmm,
and that sort of thing. But we are having a lot of people right now who are in financial dire straits, and a lot of people who are dealing with the fact that they're trying to rebound their life and get back on track right now while fuel prices are extremely high, and cost of living is going up because of
mm-hmm,
it. And I would assume that there's a lot of people out there who are struggling and just trying to find a way to find their footing while all this is going on. And like you said, there for a long time there was a stigma upon getting mental health and
mm-hmm,
asking for mental help
mm-hmm.
and just saying, hey, I need to talk to somebody because I don't know how to deal with what's going on in my head. And I mean, I'll be honest, there's times where I feel that way. There's times where I'm overwhelmed by the things that I commit to, or overextending
Mm-hmm.
myself, whether it's with work or family or whatever. Sometimes it feels like I'm juggling 1,000 balls in the air, and
Mm-hmm.
someone comes along and they go, hey, I got this other opportunity, and you're like, that sounds great, I want to do it. And then you're like, what am I doing to myself? I'm
Yeah.
adding another ball in the air. But like you said, being an introvert and then learning to be a public speaker, I am sort of the same way. I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
years I was very introverted and very quiet and very shy. I think when I was younger, that's probably the main way people would describe me, as being pretty shy.
Mhm,
But I found that, I don't know, honestly, it was pro wrestling that I watched,
mhm.
where I realized that sometimes you fake it to make it, and you come up with a
Yeah, that's
character, and
true.
if
Yeah,
you can be that character all the
yeah, I
time,
like that.
then after a while, the public speaking part of it becomes natural, and you
Yeah,
you get into a rhythm of
yeah.
things you say and a way to say them, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is fine. But also, you grow up, you get a little
Absolutely.
older, and when you have knowledge that you want to share with people, then it's not about you anymore. Which I'm sure that's what you found as being a counselor. You're like, hey, listen, this is not about my insecurities or my own crap. I want to help people.
Absolutely.
And so you push aside those other things and you say, what do I got to do to communicate this to people?
Yeah.
And this is a big step.
Yeah, it is. You push aside those insecurities because when I was listening, you talk about growing up and how you were an introvert and what allowed you to come out of it. For me, and people probably gonna be listening to this podcast like, I know him. He is not an
Right.
introvert. He talks and he's loud. Well, not that loud, but yeah, and they're probably like, no, he's not an introvert. But yeah.
Right.
So one of the reasons what allowed me, I think, I'm going with the story, to be an introvert was growing up. I was the fat kid, and so I was very insecure about. I don't mind saying, I was very insecure about.
I'm still the fat kid. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I was insecure about just the way that I looked, and this kind of shot into the background, and not wanting people to just look at me. But then as life progressed, I found a voice. I found my voice, and it that turned into something powerful. I realized I was powerful.
Yeah. Well,
And
education is part
yeah,
of it.
education, and going off to college and getting degrees and
Finding out who you are as a
finding
man,
out, yeah,
and
absolutely, and
you,
I'm still finding out who I am as a
yeah,
man, as a person.
absolutely.
So all of that just transpired, and just to wanting to use my experiences in life, the things that I've been through, to utilize that and say, you know what, let me speak about this, because people are probably going through some of the same things that I've been through.
Hmm.
Mental health wasn't talked about when I was growing up.
Right.
I mean, and we're similar in age, but you're still older than me. But
Hey, hey, hey.
so,
All right. So yeah, I'm a bit grayer here on my screen. I'm looking at myself. I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah,
I am the old guy in this situation.
but yeah, no, you know, I'm just playing. But it wasn't talked about, and especially in the African American family, definitely wasn't talked about, wasn't heard of, it wasn't spoken about mental health, and so now I feel like it's my duty, it's my mission to educate, advocate once again, and influence mental health services, and tell people, it's okay if you feel a little bit sad and not understanding why you're feeling sad. Talk about it. Come and speak to someone. Not maybe not me, but just anybody. There are
Yeah.
numerous counselors here in Florence, South Carolina. But my mission is to get those people who are in the shadows, who are afraid to open up,
Yeah.
and talk about and speak about their mental health.
Oh yeah. Well, and also, like, I can't help but think of the fact that we just went through COVID, and there was
Mhm,
a lot of COVID
mhm,
deaths. And
mhm,
so a lot of people are dealing with the PTSD of having
mhm,
loss in their family.
mhm,
And a lot of people aren't taught how to deal with loss correctly. They're
mhm,
not really taught to feel emotions about it. They're just told to get over it, go back to work,
mhm,
put your nose to the
mhm.
grindstone. And then something very light tends to, set them off. And it's like, oh, it's not about this. You usually haven't dealt with these emotions from before.
Yeah.
And that is across the board. I think from a lot of people that I work with, we talk a good bit, and I hear them say, I'm struggling with some things, but I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, you should really think about talking to somebody
Mhm,
professionally.
mhm.
And that's where you come in. I mean, I listen. I'm old enough and experienced enough to kind of give you a little bit of guidance, but I don't have any answers. I mean, I've given you the answers of things that I figured out works for
Mhm,
me,
mhm.
but because it works for me, it doesn't work for everybody. And that's true about anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody you look for advice from, whether it's a pastor or a counselor or anything,
Mhm,
maybe the answer comes from more than one person.
mhm. Yeah.
So I really highly recommend anybody, if you're going through anything, seek professional help. And honestly, like, if you don't feel like you're getting something from the person you're with, seek other help. I mean, there is plenty of people out there that are willing to
Mhm.
talk to you and help you, and you're going to find the right person along the way that'll help you figure out, how you need to maneuver your life and the things that the tools that you need to handle the adversity that you're given. Um, sometimes it is a pastor,
Mhm.
sometimes it is a friend,
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes you really need to talk to someone professionally because they have gone to school to sort of deconstruct these things and go,
Absolutely.
oh, this is what's really going on.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but you're missing the point. And listen, loved ones sometimes don't look out for your best interest.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're just looking out for their own best interest.
Yeah.
Sometimes they give you good advice and you're not willing to listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes listening to somebody who you're paying to say, hey, here's what your issue is. And you go, wait, that's the same thing my family told me. That can't be right.
Yeah.
Maybe it
Yeah.
is right. You know?
Or the family probably told him something else that was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to
More
come
than
talk to
likely.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things you spoke about, I wanted to capitalize on. I want to kind of go back, and you spoke about the church and talking to pastors. I just made a post on my new You Speaks Facebook page last week, and I highlighted churches because my initiative is to be booked. Where's the camera? So I can look right in the camera.
Right
Yeah.
there.
So for churches to book me to come to your church to speak about mental health, because the reality is African Americans statistically are less likely, and that's on my post. So go to New You Speaks Facebook page, read that post. But African Americans statistically are less likely to seek counseling than other races. And honestly, I've heard a lot of African American clients, speak about, church and, talking to their pastors. But one of the things, and I'm not taking anything away from church because I definitely I know my higher power, and which is God. I don't have not ashamed to say that. However, everything ain't spiritual.
Right.
So
Sometimes you need real world
absolutely.
advice, not just read the scripture
Yeah.
and you'll find the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't. Maybe
And
you need to talk to someone who has
yeah.
some real
Yeah.
grounding advice.
And there are a lot of people in churches, and it's not only African American churches, but churches in general, that face mental health dilemmas, a conflict, and they're afraid and they feel like, well, I can just pray it away, I pray it out. But one of the things I just want to say is this, that we were put here for a reason.
Yeah.
We counselors and therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists were put here for a reason, to be able to speak to these individuals and work through those problems, because pastors do an amazing job, preaching based off the Bible and whatnot, but everything is spiritual. And so I challenge, looking back in the camera again, I challenge churches to invite me to come to your church and speak about the overall aspect of what mental health is, and hopefully people get a better understanding of, wow, maybe I do need to talk to somebody because I'm depressed, or maybe I need to talk about because I
Well,
have anxiety.
and also like church leaders, pastors oftentimes are overwhelmed with the amount of work that they're supposed to
Mhm.
do and the amount of answers they're supposed to have. And sometimes they don't have the answers and it is overwhelming. So there is a lot of turnover over a course of time of, 5 to 6 years, I think is the statistic that I read, where a pastor takes on a whole congregation and they're invited to every wedding, every funeral,
Mhm.
every praying event, every and
Yeah,
and
that's a
and
lot.
suddenly it becomes overwhelming and they go,
Absolutely.
I can't do this anymore. And then they have to step out and someone else step in.
Mhm.
And sometimes they just need some counseling. And so, there's a lot of people who are supposed to be heads of congregation that, again, they don't want to admit that they don't have all the answers, but sometimes the answer is you just talk to someone else, talk to someone who's qualified to talk to you.
Who was trained in it, and
Yeah.
just like pastors are, well, most of them are trained to be pastors, and
Yeah.
and and therapists, ideally, we go through a very rigorous, training, and especially our exam and to become licensed. And so, and once again, I'm not saying that a license makes it a therapist. No, I mean, there are people that, that are not licensed and still are good, great therapists and great listeners. But once again, it needs to be talked about. That stigma needs to be broken, that in churches, not only just churches, big corporation and businesses like yourself, the company that you work for, they take this on for size. If the people, the drivers who work for you or the ones that you're training, You guys are doing an amazing job delivering items all across the world. But if this young man or young woman is having some issues with depression and or anxiety, and they're not addressing it, don't you think that that could affect their overall work performance?
No, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, and they may need to understand that. Wow, wow, somebody came in and talked about mental health today, and
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that can push them or encourage them to go out and get the help that they need, and especially in the climate that we're in right now.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that it's foolish of us to think that if our car is broken, we don't take it to a mechanic. We
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
If our body's broken, we go to a hospital. We go, hey, something's wrong. And yet, if our mind is broken, we go, nah, I can just tough it out.
Absolutely.
I can drink it
Yeah,
away.
I can
I
drink it.
can,
Go to the gym,
I can
work it
go to the
out,
gym. I can find an
which is good
obsession
though.
that'll keep me busy 24 hours a day. I can keep my brain busy, my hands busy. I
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes you need to talk to someone who's professionally there to
Mm-hmm.
help you get your mind right, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no, I hope that we're entering into an age
Mm-hmm.
where people are okay, I know there's like HEPA rules where you can't, you're not supposed to tell your employer this sort of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
I hope that we're in a place now where it's okay to go, hey, I'm going to seek some counseling, and even if it's private with you and your family or just with you, still let's normalize that conversation a bit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of the point of all this.
Yeah, yeah, and like here recently, there have been so many suicides. I think what Miss USA, I believe, the young lady that committed suicide, and um, um, Regina King's son committed suicide, and like these people were suggestively dealing with this pain inside, and didn't go and seek help, didn't go seek help, and this needs to change, and
Yeah.
and that whole climate and of being fearful to speak to someone. I was just talking to a young man in the gym the other day, and I had seen him in there for a while, and we would talk from time to time. And this past Thursday, I don't know how we got in the conversation about suicide and and just mental health, and he had told me that his mom committed suicide in 2020. Now I have been seeing this man, young boy in the gym for quite a while, and we got on that I don't know how we got on that conversation, and in that moment, and just by talking to him, his facial expressions were changing, because he realized that, wow, it suggestively, that it was peaceful to speak to someone. And he knew I was a therapist, but I don't know
Yeah.
why he maybe forgot, was holding back that day up in this. All of a sudden, he just told me, my mom committed suicide in 2020. And I was like, wow. And he said that his dad is still not dealing with it very well, but he said he has been able to push through, and he said he never thought about counseling, and he never really gave me the reason as to why, and but I did tell him, I said, well, the thoughts, going through the stages of grief, that's going to happen, but be very, very careful, and don't let those irrational thoughts, those negative thoughts, or just the sad moments overtake you. So he kind of gained an understanding of that. And so, yeah, suicide it doesn't, it's not talked about a whole lot, and people need to be aware. And he was saying that, so one of the key points I want to make with this, he was saying that I had just talked to her a day ago, or whatever he was saying, and she was fine. And he said, then my dad, and then we talked on the phone, and he said, then my dad called and say, like a day later, that your mom committed suicide. And that took me back to a friend of mine when I was staying in another Sherrall, actually, and he was an investigator, and he committed suicide 2 days, and we were really good friends. 2 days before he called me, and I knew he was in a very dark place. I wasn't a therapist at the time. I was actually going to school to become one. He was in a very dark place, and I knew that. And he said to me, "But don't worry, I'm not going to kill myself. Now, I'm not going to do that." And I was like, "Well, I would hope not, And I said some other words too, but I'm not going to say what I said. But he said, "No, I'm not going to kill myself." Well, a day later, a buddy, which was the at the time he was the major of Chesterfield County, called me and said that he committed suicide. So Normally, when suicide happens, in most cases, the depression has lifted. And what that means is the person has finally came to terms and peace with it, and they are okay with it. They're okay with their decision, and that's why most time people don't know when a person's going to commit suicide because we don't know. They know because they've come to terms with it. The depression has lifted, and so in most cases, the person is talking like they're happy or revived or rejuvenated. Then that's when it happens,
Hmm.
and we don't know.
Wow. Goodness.
What are your thoughts?
So if you guys came in for the comedy, sorry, this isn't that one.
No, it's not. Got a little deep. I'm sorry, but that's
That's all right.
but yeah, but that's what happens.
Yeah. So, mental health isn't always happy. There's a saying that a lot of comedians, their comedy comes from a way of dealing with the pain. And,
Mhm,
I saw a comedian once years ago, a guy named David Nastor. He wrote a
mhm,
book that says it was called You Just Have to Laugh.
mhm,
And he talked about case after case where tragedy had befallen people and they all found a way to find humor in it somewhere. And it is a coping mechanism. It is a way of deflecting. And sometimes out of fear comes some of that comedy. And it's because
mhm.
we all feel uncomfortable and we all want to laugh about a situation that may be dark and hard to deal with. But, you know, thankfully, there are people who can help and there are people who can find ways to find the humor in things. And, it does take all of this to make this work. If you don't have these kind of feelings, I mean, I don't know what kind of robot you are, but we're all dealing with stuff in our own
Yeah,
special way, and
yeah,
it's not easy. It does take some time, and it does take help, and it does take community.
yeah.
And people who are feeling as though nobody understands,
Mhm.
nobody wants to talk to me. Hey, trust me, there are people out there. Sometimes it is their profession to do it, and they have a calling to do it. Um,
But one thing I want to say, but yeah, you mentioned something. I want to say this that there are happy moments in mental health. There
oh,
are clients
absolutely.
that come in and mental health is not. I mean, sessions are not always sad sessions. There are people that
Yeah.
come in and just want to talk, like you know, hey, life is going great right now. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm happy. I got a client right now, went through some grief. Husband died during COVID, coming in now and she's happy. She's getting through those stages of grief and life is pretty amazing for her right now.
Well, I would imagine that it's helpful to say out loud, here's some things that are going well. Even even if it's not really talked about, you got to think that when you struggle with things and then you have a moment where things go well,
Mhm.
it sort of helps to say it out loud. And if you're saying it out loud, it's not just that
You're
you're proclaiming it,
yeah,
you're sharing it
yeah, absolutely. And you're owning it.
and
Yeah.
you're owning
I
it.
like that. Look at
And
you,
you're,
therapist. Yeah.
well, I'm a good listener. So,
Yeah, that's true, Josh. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And you're right. You're proclaiming it. You're owning it, and when you proclaim it and own it, that's when you take the needed steps to get through it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And work on it. Work on the issues at hand and become that person that you envision. So yeah. But yeah, there absolutely are happy moments in therapy. I have a lot of clients that come in and they want to discuss the happy times, the happy moments. But no, but let's just be real. Therapy doesn't always start off that way.
Right.
Most people, you think about it, people come to get counseling, there's something going on. I can count on my hands how many times somebody come in, oh, I want therapy because life is so amazing. And I want to just tell you about how amazing life is. That really, really happens, but it can happen. That's why you need to book a New You Speaks, because guess what? Once you learn about mental health and possibly address your mental health concerns, then you can get to that point of being that person
Yeah.
saying, what, life is great. I just had some ice cream and I came here and just want to tell you that life is great. I love to hear those stories.
Yeah. And sometimes it's about not necessarily finding the grandiose finished line moment. Sometimes
Mhm,
it's about, I just want to talk about the things I'm going through daily because
mhm,
maybe it is uncomfortable for you to talk to your spouse about. Maybe it is uncomfortable for you to talk to your kids about. Maybe it's little achievements that you feel like today was a win. Today whatever the situation is, today I went for a walk.
yeah.
I was out in nature. I saw some butterflies that made me think of my mom, or
Yeah.
whatever the situation. I had some ice cream, reminded me when I was a
Yeah.
kid, and it made me happy for a little while. And this is the having those moments is
Yeah.
important because it does ground you in things that will help you feel like you have a starting point, I think, and
Mhm.
and it makes you feel connected in a way that is very important. And not everybody's story has a happy finish line. There are a
Mhm.
lot of people that
Mhm.
struggle their entire lives,
Mhm.
but sometimes that's due to trauma in their youth.
Mhm.
Sometimes that is due to a struggle within their personal lives.
Mhm.
And, you know, most people that you come into contact with aren't going to have the answers that you're
Mhm.
looking for. And hopefully you can find some help with somebody professionally and they can help you find those avenues and those ways of talking to people and getting that at least out of your system. Because again, saying it out loud sometimes helps you go, oh, I hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I don't like what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
let me find a new way. Let me find
Yeah.
a new path, a new
Mhm.
verbiage,
Mhm.
a new world for what I want
Mhm.
and a path that I can go on to get there.
Yeah, I see a lot of Facebook posts like when you're going down your timeline and see so many people and just make these random posts. I need to talk to somebody. I'm depressed. I'm
Mm.
just, and I'm looking like, wow, just make that move. Just take that
Yeah.
initiative to do that.
Well, and it's a to me that's almost the cry for help. That's almost the hey,
Yeah,
I'm losing my mind here.
yeah, yeah,
You putting it on Facebook. There's a reason
yeah,
because you
yeah,
think somebody might be listening.
yeah.
I got a friend of mine going through some stuff right now, and his posts have been very how do I phrase this? It's been very self promoting in a way of trying to have I statements. I am this. I feel this way. I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, are you trying to give yourself a pep talk on Facebook? Is that what's going on? Are you just trying to make your I statement so that you feel better about yourself, or so other
Yeah,
people see it and they feel better about you? You need a hug?
yeah.
I'll come over there and hug you. You know, I'm like, you okay, bud?
Which is also great. That's also a form of effective communication. But yeah,
It
but
is.
anyway.
It is. But I was like, I see what's going on here, and I want to reach out. And listen, if you've got a friend or family member that's going through stuff like that,
Mhm,
reach out to them. Just a little friendly,
mhm.
hey, are you good? You want to talk?
Yeah, and this those little small words go a long way.
Yeah.
They really do. They go a long way, and they can be effective if they done in the right um tone or the right moments. In the right moments. But yeah, one of the and you was talking about the past, and I told you that, and I think we talked earlier in Friday night, and I was telling you about I made another video with 9 Owl production. And this video went back to my actual house that I grew up in, well, at least from the seventh grade until graduating high school. And the reason why I did a video for that is because one of the things was I wanted to show vulnerability
Hmm.
that I didn't always have it, great. It was far from great, and
Right.
and that house was a depiction of that, and just using that for that video to show that anybody who suggestively has lived like that or is living like that, if I was able to come out of the darkness and the pain and be able to being this person, wow, they can do the same thing,
Yeah.
and some of these people are or who suggestively have lived like, and I keep saying suggestively because I can't pinpoint that is the truth, but some of these people own corporations and
Yeah.
businesses who went through some of the thickness,
Adversity.
and yeah, absolutely, diversity and the darkness and all that, the trials and tribulation, and they own these businesses. And so, yeah, they need to realize that there could be people that work there with them that still have gone through some of those same things, but this need to talk about it and need to get it out. And so
Yeah.
that nothing else, that video, and we're going to showcase it at some point, and and let people understand it's not about people to see where I was from, but just to show the story, the journey of
Yeah.
where I've been at, and how effective that mental health is.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I know people, some of my closest friends and whatnot have come from very adverse situations. My mom probably being the most influential of that group. Um, she received some kind of lifetime achievement award thing recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about a year ago, I guess. And she's like, I really want you to be there. And I was like, okay. So I moved around a lot of stuff and was able to go. And during the thing, she talked a little bit about her past and a little bit about how she got here. And I looked around the room and I realized the whole room knows her from one aspect. They don't know the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the whole story. And I've asked her in the past if she would be willing to talk about it or write a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, no. I said, why not? She's like, because there's a lot of ghosts in my past and they need to be thought well of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to relive them.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I like the fact that I made it through that, but there's no need to drag people through the mud. And I was like, well, okay. I was like, but I don't think people fully understand what an uphill battle the entire thing was. And I keep telling her, I was like, if you could write a book about your life, it should be titled something like "You Can't Do That Because dot dot dot." Because all through her life, she was told she couldn't do things because of one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
And every step of her life, she just stepped through that and went, "Oh yeah, watch me." And that sort of adversity and I guess stubbornness in a way
Mm-hmm.
is sort of what helps a lot of people succeed because they come from adversity and they come
Mm-hmm.
from tough situations.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, there's a moment in their life that sparks an idea of, I'm going to figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you just stick with it.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a guy probably a couple weeks ago. We were working together and he was saying how when he started there, he didn't think that he could make it. He said, this job is very physical. It's very
Mm-hmm.
tough. And I said, well, once you made it past the first summer, you realized, oh, I can do this. I said, one thing I found true is if anybody's here longer than a year, they have two things in common. They're stubborn and they like to make money. he, he was quiet for a minute. He goes,
yeah.
that's exactly it. He was like, I'm stubborn and I want to make money. I said, there you go. I
Yeah.
said, but once you get past that, then you go, oh, I like this can really change my life. This can change my whole family's life. And a lot of things worthwhile in this world are that. It is that struggle. It is that stubbornness of going, I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm going to figure out a way around this. And overcoming the obstacles that are given before you. And a lot of times it is the conversation that you have with someone where they go, you can't be this because blah blah blah, or you can't do that because blah, and something in your brain goes, well, yeah, watch me.
Yeah.
And you just stick to it and you just keep trying. And if you're stubborn and work hard enough and you're lucky enough, everything works out.
Yeah, internal motivation was what I had to obtain for myself because I didn't have anybody telling me that I couldn't do it, but I didn't also have anybody telling me that I could do it.
Right.
So I had to gain the internal motivation within myself to go out and achieve goals. People ask, clients even ask, well, how did you do this with no support system? And my words to them is my higher power. It's the only thing I can think of, and it's my drive and motive. And at the time, that I had drive, to be able to be that person. But one of the things that I heard you saying about your mom and writing the book because she didn't want to, because I am in the process of writing a book, and I kind of started and we stopped, but I'm gonna get back. But for me, there's a lot of things that I got a lot of things to say. You know what I'm saying? I look at it a little bit differently because of all the things that I've been through in my life, I didn't ask for those things.
Yeah.
And so for me, and this may sound selfish, but sometimes when you think about your mental health, you have to be selfish. The people or the individuals that provided me with the pain, I got to give that pain back to them because I no longer want it. That pain kept me down for so long. So I feel like it, and I guess I look at it, that's the selfish part of me coming out. Why should these people walk around and have an amazing life and they're smiling in everybody's face and they tore other people down? And for me, I feel like if by me writing and getting all of my stuff out and all of my mess out, then I'm releasing myself of the pain. And everybody looks at it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But for me, there was a lot of things that were not my fault
Oh, yeah.
that happened. And I adopted that concept a while ago. It wasn't my fault. I didn't ask to be born into a family that was on drugs. I didn't ask for that stuff.
Well, we had this conversation years ago of I didn't ask to be born white
Yeah.
as a male
Yeah.
in America, of all
Yeah.
the places I could
Yeah.
be born as a
Yeah.
white male. I
Yeah.
mean, you have no choice of what you're born as. You have no choice
Mhm.
of the family that you're given. And yet somehow you have to figure out a way to live your life
Mhm.
from that moment on.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine if you were in the Ukraine right now.
Oh,
I mean, holy cow.
yeah.
I had Jan on last week, and he's from the Czech Republic in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
He's got family in the area. He really didn't want to talk about where they're exactly at because, of course, that may put them in harm's way. But
Yeah.
um, he's living in America now, and it just blows my mind that he can come from basically the other side of the world and establish a life here, and how different that is, and how interesting that
Mhm.
is to
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
But yet, every step of it was him hoping to find a better life than what he knew when he grew up.
Mhm.
And, nothing was given. It
Yeah.
was all a struggle.
Yeah.
It was all a
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was one of the main reasons I want to have him on last week, was to talk about the stuff that's going on over there, and to talk about sort of how it was affecting him, and the way he was looking at it, because, some of that political stuff that was
Mhm.
going on made
Mhm.
sense to him,
Yeah.
but also it's sort of a no-win situation for anybody involved.
Mhm.
And, I guess that's one of the more compelling parts about human nature, is a lot of us are motivated by our own selfishness or by our own desires. Um, and somewhere along the way, we get caught up in the rat race of life, and we're not sure where we
Mhm.
should stand on things. And here lately, like, social media has allowed people to put their flag in the ground and say, this is where I stand.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I've always, and I guess it's because of my mom, I've always been raised with the idea of, don't be so quick to pick a side. Think about it, and think about
Mhm.
where these people come from, and what their
Mhm.
decision making is, and how they're
Mhm.
influenced,
Mhm.
because the bigger picture may not be an easy answer.
Absolutely.
And that's sort of the
That's so
answer with
true.
a lot of people. I mean, if in the movie Men in Black, he starts talking about aliens. He's like, why can't we tell people aliens are real? He goes, well, you can tell a person. A person is rational. A person you can talk to.
Yeah.
People are stupid and dumb,
Yeah.
and they tend to make rash decisions in large groups. And that's the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to have one-on-one conversations, and like you were saying, you have this thing inside of you that you want to get out.
Mhm.
That's why I started this podcast, is because I was having these great conversations with people on a regular basis. And I
Mhm.
was thinking, this is some of the stuff that people
Mhm.
need to share.
Yeah.
And maybe a conversation like that is good to share with people that I know and people that I don't know. Let's open up the conversation and build community, and have people talk about this sort of stuff, and make it normalized. Make it normal to
Yeah.
have friends and family and people that you talk to and lean on, that are from different races and
Mhm.
cultures and backgrounds,
Mhm.
and education levels,
Mhm.
and lifestyles, and like, share in what you're struggling with, and talk about answers that we found along the way, because it
Mhm.
can only help people.
Mhm. Like, because even when we met, some years ago, we didn't have a lot in common, but there are some commonalities that we do have, and
Sure.
this being one of them. It just, promoting things,
And helping
and
people.
helping, absolutely helping people. So, and now those things kind of, we combine those things and for the greater good. And so, but you're exactly right. I mean, it just getting out there and just. But one thing, it goes back to just being true to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Definitely is being true to have a sign in my office, being true to yourself. And for me, that has really helped me throughout the years, of not knowing, or not knowing what to do, but just being, and this is being true to myself. This being,
Sure.
true to myself by, writing a book, and getting out the stuff that needs to be heard.
Well, and also, a lot of people don't talk about this kind of thing, but to me, it was helpful growing up being poor,
Mhm.
because you were made to ride the bus.
Yeah.
You were made to stand outside and wait for the bus. You were made to sit next to that weird kid that always smelled like Pop Tarts. You always had that one
Yeah.
kid that has been through a little too much at home and gets on the school bus and wants to act out. And, it's there is a commonality in that you tend to sit with everybody at some point and start a conversation. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, this kid back here, he's smelling like Pop Tarts, right?
Yeah. And think about it. A lot of people I've spoken to, and people that I know, and some of the clients come in and say, well, when we were growing up, we didn't know we was poor. And I looked at them like, we knew we were poor. I know. How do you not know you're not poor? So we knew we was poor. We knew we was in poverty. We knew that, and coming home every day from school was a representation of that we knew we was poor. But yeah, and maybe that was a one of the things that fueled me to not wanting to. I just was telling somebody the other day, a buddy of mine, that I'm not addicted to money by a long shot. I'm addicted to success. I'm addicted to being successful. And of course, the money hopefully comes with the success, but I'm not addicted to just the overall idea of being a millionaire. I'm addicted to being successful, starting this new business, a new You Speaks, is my idea of becoming successful. I mean, for me, when I become successful, all the things that carry along with that will come along with it.
Sure.
So
I think the healthy way to say that is I'm driven.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't went all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy because I was talking about, I took a creative writing course when I was like in 5th or 6th grade. And at Coker College, they had it over and I went through that creative writing course. And this is a side note. I'm sorry, side note. And they taught me how to write creatively. So when I got to college at Coker College, I went back to Coker College and got my bachelor's degree years later. And in my research class, she gave us these articles that we had to critique every week. And I was like, oh, I got this, I got this. So we had to critique the articles. She came back. My first paper was a D. I said, why did I get a D? She said, you write too creatively. So I had to go back. I said, well, they taught me how to, she said, no, you need to get to the point. You need to get to the point. I don't need to hear all this, extra stuff. So, but anyway, I just thought I'd say that was a story that popped up when you said that, because I always kind of go all around sometimes, and rather than just getting to the point. But
yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, like, so for me, I was motivated not to go backwards. Like that was the whole goal. Go forward.
Who motivated you? Who's your motivator? Or motivators? I don't know. Or what motivated you?
I don't know. I guess, well, for me, struggling, being a single parent with 2 kids. I joined the Marine Corps at 20. And which is later than most. Most come straight out of high school and join. But I tried to live a little bit of a life first, and tried to go to college, and just couldn't decide on a major, and went in the Marine Corps. I had a son. Me and their mom wasn't together, but we got together right before I left, and it was one of those things where I had already signed up to join the Marine Corps. I wasn't going to quit because I knew that I was going to have a kid, and I was like, I got to figure out how to be a man first. And I got no representation.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't around. My stepdad was a poor example.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta figure out who I am. And hopefully the Marine Corps will show me. And went in that direction full blast with that mentality. And I guess in the Marine Corps, they instilled in me this idea of know yourself and seek self-improvement. And for whatever reason, that leadership trait drilled into my brain of at every moment of every day, think about where you're failing and work on that. And I did.
Yeah.
And I pushed myself all the time. Anytime that I felt like, things are going pretty good. Well, let's take inventory. What am I doing well and what am I doing poorly?
Yeah.
So those are questions that I learned to ask on a regular basis, not only of myself, but of the people around me. And I went, okay, I got a son now. I got a wife. What are we doing? What do we need to be doing differently? And obviously, this is not healthy for a young family, especially when you're 3,000 miles away from any support system.
Yeah.
But I was constantly going,
Yeah.
well, I'm working on myself. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
Hmm.
And so I gave her a hard time. I
Hmm.
really pressured her in a way that was unfair. Um, but it was one of those things that ended up costing us our marriage. I had two kids with her. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I came back and she left, and I ended up with both the kids pretty much full time. They would see her once in a while. And you know,
Motivation.
there
Yeah.
was a lot of moments where I couldn't afford any cable. We were living in a small 900 square foot house, 2 bedroom, one bath. We were in sort of a crime area.
Hmm.
My house got broken into
Oh, wow.
while I wasn't home one day. Their stuff got gone. Um, I had them an Xbox. It was taken. Uh, there was a lot of meals purchased on credit cards. There was no eating out. This was all going to the grocery store and buying groceries on credit cards and hoping that I can pay it off when I
Yeah.
get my taxes
Yeah.
because I wasn't making enough
Yeah.
and it was struggling.
Were you depressed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
I went through a really rough depression time.
Did you seek help, or you just kind of went through on your own?
No. I prayed a lot. I talked to my mom a little
That
bit.
definitely works.
I talked to friends. I drank a lot. Um, at a certain point, I realized this is not going to get any better until I refocus, until I decide there's other things I want out of life. And that was the time that I met my wife now.
Mm-hmm.
I met her during this struggle and during this time, and I read a lot of self-help books. I went to the library and I checked out some self-help books, and I was starting to reconnect with my dad a bit, and he recommended a couple of books that were actually pretty helpful. Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, Celestine Prophecy. I forget who wrote that one. I read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
I read a book called um, How to Build an Affair-Proof Marriage.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, affair really didn't affect our marriage, but there were a lot of things in there that helped. And one of the things that helped me the most was it talked about how in relationships, you have a love bank, and that the things that you do between each other either put money in that love bank or withdraw. And if you work every day to put things in that love bank, then it will reward you in the end. But if you do something to take money out of that love bank, your withdrawals may be much larger than your deposits.
Absolutely. I like
And
that.
so it's important to constantly put things in that love bank. And I thought, well, that's actually pretty helpful. But also in there, it talked about how to have conflict and how to argue effectively. One of the things it talked about was if you're in an argument, focus on the argument. Don't degrade each other in the argument. You need to learn to argue correctly.
It's called and that's a fair fighting rule.
Yeah, you're gonna have. This is also from the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. You're gonna have disagreements because you're different people. You have different fears, different desires, different things that you're considering to be important to you. Some of that's through your own selfishness. You may say, "But I want to do this." Okay, well, but she's asking you to do that, and there may be a reason. Be willing to talk about it, and not just both of you talk at each other. You have to talk and listen. And listening is the important part because you both have to be willing to listen in order to help it.
Yeah.
And in that, I learned, oh, up to now, I fought poorly. I fought unfairly.
Yeah.
I used everything in my arsenal, and that wasn't effective, and it was detrimental. And I made a decision. From this point on, I'm going to do things differently. When I have an argument with someone, I'm going to argue about the thing. I'm not going to degrade people.
Absolutely.
And that's helped me not only in relationships with women, but in relationships with people in general.
Yeah.
Whether it's professionally or otherwise. You then go, okay, so here's the argument. I should have done this, or you should have done this. Yeah. Well, it wasn't done. So let's discuss it. This is the problem. Let's work on the problem. Do I need to do something different? Do you need to do something different? Is it my perception? Is it yours? Is it? And then go, okay, cool. We can work beyond that. And that helps you in that realization. It helps you then discover how to have personable relationships with people professionally and privately and deal with your issues and move forward. And so every step of that is a step towards your direction of where you want to go. So my relationship with my wife started doing well. I remember I had a conversation with my mom. I said, I'm I'm feeling this way about this woman and I don't
Yeah.
understand it because I don't want a relationship.
Yeah.
I just got over this horrible one and I'm trying to focus on what's right. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I just want to talk to her whenever the day is done. Like all of my problems, all the things I'm going through, I still want to talk to her when the day is done. And she was having the same thing going on with her mom. She
Mm-hmm.
made a comment to her mom that she went on vacation with her mom and she and I had split up and she the whole trip was talking to her mom about, well, Josh this and Josh that and Josh this and Josh that. And she's like, girl, she's like, if you say one more Josh thing, she goes, I'm gonna lose my mind. She goes, have you realized that you're in love with this guy? She goes,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh crap, maybe I
Yeah.
am.
Love prevailed.
Right, right. But every step of that is a struggle of going,
Mm-hmm.
who am I? What do I
Yeah.
want? Where am I
Mm-hmm.
going?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't go along with what your plan originally was.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you just sort of have to be willing to understand that and work through that. And so the drive constantly just came from living life and trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to do, who I am, and where am I
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
That's what we all want to know.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
born
Yeah.
thinking, where did I come from? Where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
What's the plan? And some people have a plan,
And some
and
people
and,
don't.
and when life doesn't go to the
Mm-hmm.
plan, that's when they lose their
Mm-hmm.
minds.
See, that's the thing about it, and I have people that actually that come to therapy because they're trying to figure out what's the next steps and
Yeah,
what's the plan. And honestly, I didn't even have a plan. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have a plan to get a master's degree. I didn't have a plan to. It wasn't in my plans to own my own business.
right.
Well, now two business. That wasn't a plan for me. That just came about, through.
But as you succeed in life, there is a moment where you go, oh, I am doing the thing I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
Like as you become an
Mm-hmm.
adult and you take ownership of the things it is that you're supposed to do. I heard this said by Bert Kreischer's wife, Leanne. She said, you have to say out loud the thing you want to achieve in order to achieve it. You have to put it.
Mm-hmm.
She says she has a board at their house and they write down goals once a year. This is the goal we want to do. Write down 5 goals. And Bert does this on his birthday every day. He sits down, he has dinner by himself,
Mm-hmm.
and he writes down, these are the goals I want to
Mm-hmm.
reach this year.
Mm.
And he tries to achieve those goals. And I thought, that's actually really thoughtful
It
and
is.
really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
Um, but it is by a different type of person. There's not a lot of people who are driven like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who just want to survive.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to,
Yeah.
hey, I just want to make it till Friday so I can party.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's one way to live your life.
Yeah.
That's not how I'm living my
No,
life.
absolutely. The vision and from a new you speaks came from this. Let me tell you what happened. So I was supposed to open another practice up. We talked about that, and that didn't fall through. It didn't happen. And now I choose to believe that it didn't happen because it wasn't supposed to happen right now.
Right.
And so the practice didn't happen. So I was just laying in bed one day. But prior to that, I get a little irritated sometimes at work at my office when referrals will come through, and this is where all this came from. Referrals will come through from doctors' offices, from pediatrician offices for children, and that had depression and anxiety and other numerous other diagnoses that the pediatrician was referring into my practice to get counseling. And so when my assistants would call these parents, they would refuse therapy.
Yeah.
There was clearly a referral that came through with the child was having some suicidal ideations, and the mother did not bring the child in. And I start thinking like, what in the world is going on? I can remember when I was young, of course we didn't have that, but if there's something that we needed to get done, my mom would take me to the doctor, so things of that nature. But so just the negative thoughts start coming like, why is this happening? Are we not good, effective enough therapists for people to want to come in to see us? And so then I was laying in bed one day, and the thought came to my mind, and this was clear as day, a new you speaks, and it came to me, and I was like, wow, that's what I need to be doing. I need
Mm-hmm.
to be educating, advocating, and influencing mental health services, because people need to understand that it's important and it's okay to come and get help. And the reality is that a lot of the individuals are scared and they don't know. And so that's what the vision, the initiative came from for this new business. It's because of that, was because of parents and not only parents, but this people in general was refusing mental health services because they were scared to come, because of thinking that people think that they're crazy, which is the word that which is most people use, like, oh, well, he's crazy if he's going to therapy. And so we have to change the language around. We have to
Yeah.
just change those narratives. And so that's where this vision came from for this new business, is to go out and speak and educate people about what mental health is, and hopefully um, the climate will change with that, and people will start getting help that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. Everybody finds motivation different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it's motivated through fear. Some people it's motivated through
Mm-hmm.
achievement. Some people like praise. Um, some people like being told you can't do this, and it motivates them to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's motivated differently. And listen, there is something to be said about wanting things to remain the same. A lot of people like having a routine.
Mm-hmm.
They like having something they can count
Mm-hmm.
on because maybe they have chaos other ways in their life. And they're like, if I could just
Mm-hmm.
get this one thing to where it's a routine, I feel comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we all have to realize is that this is an ever changing world with ever
Mm-hmm.
changing problems. And we got to be willing to change with it
Yeah,
because that's the only way we can really survive.
yeah.
And sometimes the change can be overwhelming
It can.
and you do need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, and
So,
there's fear associated with that.
sure,
But for a minute, Josh, I want to read off some statistics in South Carolina as it relates to mental
sure.
health.
Go ahead.
So, I did some research here recently, and South Carolina has a population of approximately about 48 million people. And this is supposed to be recent. Close to 4.5% of adults in South Carolina are living with a serious mental health condition. And they did list a few of them that was down. Only 44.5% of the adults with mental health illnesses in South Carolina receive any form of treatment from either the public system or private providers. The remaining 55.5% receive no mental health treatment. And then the research goes on to say that uh, 1 in 5 U.S. adults are experiencing some kind of mental illness each year.
Would you say that money may be a factor for a lot of people in them thinking, oh, I can't afford that?
Absolutely, that's probably one of the probably factors that prevent them from coming. But but a lot of people have state assistant Medicaid and things of that nature. But even with that, some of those individuals won't even come. But yeah, but money does play a factor, because you got
Yeah.
to think about it. Some people are put up on that. Well, put their backs against the wall. Do I buy food for my home, or do I go work on my mental health with a therapist? And so you face with those dilemmas and those decisions. So yeah, I get it. And most people in those cases are probably gonna, buy food for their family. But there's still help. And a lot of private practices and public, agencies offer sliding fees, and being able to reduce the amount that but the client never knows until they reach out to ask the questions.
Well, and to me, it always goes back to if you ever fly on a plane, they tell you that if the cabin loses air pressure, these masks will drop down
Mm-hmm.
from the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and they say put the mask on yourself first, then you can help others.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't help others.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out here who constantly think of themselves as providers for other people and they care for other people. And yet when they're going through something they're struggling with, they don't think about taking care of themselves. But you got to take care of yourself
You
if
know.
you're going to help
You know.
others. If you're a mother, if you're a father, if you're a care provider for somebody, take care of yourself first. That way you can help others. And if you don't, then you're both going to end up overwhelmed
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I definitely just wanted to, and the statistics kind of go on, but I wanted to kind of just draw attention to that. I thought it was very, very important.
yeah.
And also the last one is 706,000 adults in South Carolina have a mental health condition, and some of those people are not getting help for it. They didn't go on and say how many are getting help for it, but yeah, and that's pretty big. And one of the questions that I ask on my assessment when I see a new client is past family history of mental health illnesses, and it's alarming how many people come in and have so many family members that have mental health illnesses that are not getting help.
Well, and it's also people who've reported it. There's a lot of people who don't
Yeah,
report it.
and you're right. That's right. People who reported
Like you
it.
said, because of stigma,
Mm-hmm.
because of
Mm-hmm.
questions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get as CDL drivers, we get questionnaires once in a while that ask us about certain routine things like fatigue and stuff like that. And we don't want to admit it fatigue because then that puts us in a different
Yeah.
category
Mm-hmm.
for all sorts of sleep studies and problems that could give us
Mm-hmm.
problems with our
Mm-hmm.
jobs. And it's like, I'm not reporting that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people, when they get any kind of surveys that has to do with their stuff for work and it asks some things about their mental health, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
go, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah. If it's gonna
It's all
affect,
good.
yeah, if it's gonna affect their livelihood and their ability to take care of themselves, yeah, they're gonna say, no, I'm okay.
Meanwhile, they're probably just barely hanging on.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna be okay. But even on my assessment, and I'm sorry, not my assessment, my new patient packet, it asked those questions like in the last 2 weeks. I do like scales, like I do an anxiety scale, I do a depression scale, and you know, a lot of the people probably not answering it correctly because
Right.
they don't want to like face the fact that or face the reality that wow, I may need to work on some things, and so and that's where the fear comes in at. But you know, the climate that we're in now, COVID has really um, increased mental illnesses. You know, since the start of it in 2020, and um, I will have to if I have to just tag a number, roughly 20 to 30% of the clients that I'm seeing now came during that climate. You know,
Mm.
when the COVID pandemic was really at its highest.
Do you think that is because they possibly had more time to sit and think
Hmm.
about what's going on?
Absolutely.
And maybe the culture is changing where they can talk about it and
Hmm.
they felt more
Yeah.
comfortable than the
Yeah.
past couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's very possible.
Because people were home and they wasn't getting out and working from home. Some people still are working from home.
Well, I heard there's a whole group of kids who were growing in school trying to learn speech.
Hmm.
And because of wearing masks, they don't see people's mouths move when they
Hmm.
talk.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of kids that are having delayed speech because they haven't been able to learn.
And I can see that, and delay I mean, reduced communication as
Reduced
well. Like,
communication.
yeah, their communication skills have weakened, and I have a lot of clients that have children, that have come in, and that their communication skills have decreased because of being home and man, just playing video games and not having any social interaction
Yeah.
with people their age. And
I wonder what that's going to do like moving forward as they become adults because people are meant to be social creatures. They're meant to interact with each other. I
Mhm.
mean, we are. We're just
Yeah.
meant to.
Mhm.
Um, and it seems like the more we interact with each other, the more well-rounded we are, and the easier we deal with
Mhm.
adversity or, any
Mhm.
sort of struggle.
Mhm.
And that's honestly one of the things that I felt has made us the people we are is the adversity.
Yeah.
And you sort of need that a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, I've heard Adam Carolla once called it grit. He said, you
Yeah.
need grit. He said, and there's no way to teach grit.
Yeah.
You just have
Yeah.
to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you come to the other side of it, then grit affects you in all kinds of ways. And usually it's a motivator.
Mhm.
I just talked to a guy last week who said, he asked me, he said, have you ever realized that the friends in your life are the ones holding you back? And I
Mm.
was like, let's talk about that.
Wow. Wow.
And he
Wow.
goes, I'm just realizing that I have friends that are holding me back because they want me to be a loser like they are.
Mm.
And I was like,
It's
how do
powerful.
you feel about that? And I was like, wow, what a cool conversation. I'm so glad I'm having it with you because
Yeah,
I feel a lot about this. I
I
was
do
like,
too.
I was like, listen,
Yeah.
there are choices you can make. I
Yeah.
said, I've heard a lot of successful people talk about how at a certain point in their life they thought, maybe I need to make better friends.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you learn along the way is when you make friends with successful people, all they really want to do is share their success with you and
Mm.
help you figure out
Hmm.
the cheat codes of things they
Absolutely.
learned.
Yeah.
And they get you in contact with people
Hmm.
who can help you
Hmm.
make better
Hmm.
decisions. And,
Yeah.
you know,
That's so true though. I've struggled with that though. Yeah, I totally 100% agree with him with that because, when I started my businesses, I didn't really have a lot of support from friends and well, friends in the business, put it
yeah,
like that, not friends. I might come off wrong. So, friends in my little circle of my business, what I do, but didn't have a lot of support with that, and honestly, still don't have a lot of support in this community. But hey, and it's hard. I think I don't know what I can attribute that to, but it does happen. And so for me, I have to constantly um say positive affirmation to myself every
sure.
day that I can do this. You're amazing.
yeah,
Kelvin, you are the bomb. You can do this, because I didn't have that. Even and not only just friends, sometimes you have to separate yourself from family as well.
I was going to say that. The during the past 6 months or so, I guess Kevin Hart had a little show on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix where uh it was basically a representation of his life. It
Mm-hmm.
says loosely based on a true story,
Mm-hmm.
and it showed what was it?
I didn't see it.
God, what was the name of that movie? It was so good.
Yeah, one of the things, and I teach this
Or
concept
show.
that it's called emotional cutoff. Sometimes when you have to cut off people in your family members in your life, they're
True
not
story.
contributing to you. Oh yeah, true story. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did saw one episode of
With
that.
Wesley Snipes
Yeah,
played his
yeah,
brother.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
in it he was holding him back. Like he was his brother, but
Mm-hmm,
he was into some nefarious stuff and
mm-hmm,
it was holding him back. And I don't want to give the show away. It's a
mm-hmm,
really great show. But here you got this juggernaut guy on a career path who's trying to make it, and
mm-hmm,
yet here's a family member who's one of his
mm-hmm,
closest family members
mm-hmm.
who just doesn't
Yeah,
who can't seem to get it
yeah,
together and is pulling him down all the
yeah, yeah,
time. And
yeah.
the show is crazy. It takes a really dark turn really fast, and um, it's a testament to Kevin Hart and his acting ability, but also um, Wesley Snipes playing his brother is really impressive.
Yeah,
But the story is sort of a reflection of life of,
yeah,
hey, sometimes it is your own
yeah,
family that is pulling you
absolutely.
down,
Yeah,
and you have to find what works for you, and you have to move forward, and
yeah.
and sometimes you do have to let go.
You do. That's a whole nother podcast. We're not
Yeah.
even talk about that with my family, because let me tell you, that's a whole nother podcast. But I will say this right here. For me, it was called emotional cutoff, and
Yeah.
and I had to emotionally cut people off that was not contributing to my success. It
Hmm.
was not contributing to my happiness. It was not contributing to my peace. Those people had to be cut off, and for me, that meant cutting a lot of people off that was never really there in the first place. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
And I build myself off of what the people that I did have, and which is my wife and brother and things of that nature. But I live by that, and I have not looked back on emotionally cutting these people off, because if I had kept those people in my life, then I will not be here today
Yeah.
operating two businesses, and so it goes back to me. It was reclaiming my peace, and
Hmm.
so yeah. But that's a whole other podcast.
But
But
that's
that's a
like
good
a
one.
friend of mine was learning to be a lifeguard years ago, and he said that when you swim up to somebody and they're panicking, the first thing you have to do is somehow get control of them any way you can. And he goes, and I mean anyway. And I
Yeah.
was like, what do you mean anyway? He goes, I had to kick this dude in the nuts one time just so he'd stop flailing around. He goes, I kicked him in the nuts. He goes, he goes, I grabbed him by his neck and I go, I'm saving you now.
Well, you know what? I'm surprised Dan didn't do that to me yet. I'm
but,
just
but he said that, along the way, he said, you learn that when people are panicking,
yeah,
they might pull you under and
yeah,
then you'll drown too.
yeah, yeah.
And I thought at that
That's
moment, I
true.
thought, well, God, that's a lesson for
Yeah.
life. That's really true about life in general.
Well, I'm glad y'all didn't do it to me, because we had a lot of pool lessons at the
No, you can
pool.
stand up. It's
Yeah,
fine.
so I didn't realize that. So,
Yeah.
so I have to get kicked in there. But anyway, but yeah, that's so true. You have to, Josh. I didn't really, honestly, I didn't really have the people there though. For me, they were
Yeah.
never, they were never there. They were never there
If
to
what's the
support me.
saying? If you keep moving forward, they can't latch on.
Yeah, and that's what
Maybe
I'm
that's the
doing.
drive.
Yeah, and maybe that's the drive, because you know I never had anybody there just to say, "Oh, I got you. What do you need? How's the business going?" They have family, well, other than my brother, but never had anybody just saying, "What do you need?" And notice I say brother. I have two, but just never had anybody there just to other than, and I'm sorry, of course, my wife, of course, but
Well,
that was a given.
she's
But
she's a ride or die no matter
yeah,
what.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was given, so, but yeah, just never really having anybody there. So for me, that was, you're right. That was motivation,
Yeah.
to not go back. The house that I grew up in is motivation.
Yeah.
To not go back to that living environment, and that's, I think that's embedded in my brain. That's constant motivation to not go back to that. But you know, so yeah, so this new business is New You Speaks is tackling, you know, issues that people may be having, reservations that they have about um, uh, getting therapy. Once again, you know, my slogan for this business, A New You Speaks, is from pieces to peace, the journey from pieces to peace. And that was so big to come up with that because and that came from my old home that I stayed in for a, a lot of years because I was in pieces, you
Yeah,
know. I was in broken and just in all over the place, you know, and not knowing who I was and not knowing will I ever make it out of that. And now there's peace. There's
sure.
peace. And I'm still claiming my peace. So, you know, that's what this slogan is. And that's the basis of A New You Speaks is for me to, you know, speak to businesses, churches, corporations, I don't know, industrial companies, schools, you know, doing hospitals, lunch and learns, you know, to talk about this is needed, you know, and just to talk about, you know, educate once again the tag educate, advocate, and influence mental health services and just being that person to do that. I want this to blow up. I want this to get big. I want this to, and not only this, once again, not for the financial aspect of it, but for people to say, you know what, Mr. Durant came to my business, came to my church, or whatever me, and he spoke about mental health, and for that, I'm going to get some help from somebody.
Sure.
You know, that's
Even if it doesn't come from you, at least you help spark them to get help.
absolutely, because you
Yeah.
know it doesn't have to come from me. They don't have to, you know,
Yeah.
come get help from me, but for them to be able to go get help from somewhere. So that's what this is about. You know, for me to use my platform, I feel like I do have a platform. I have a platform now. You know, as a therapist. You know, and this for the people who don't know, I am a licensed professional counselor, a licensed addictions counselor, a national certified counselor, and I gained one more since the last time I saw you. I'm also a board certified hypnotherapist. So I actually have been dabbling into some hypnosis as well. So
I got some friends. Maybe you can talk them into some stuff. We'll talk later.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and it is effective. So people always say, does it work? Yeah, it does work. You know. So though that's who I am. And so now I'm using this platform to go out and promote mental health services. So
Well, I'll tell you what. We I think we've helped a lot of people here. I think
mhm,
we've talked about
mhm,
it a little bit.
mhm, mhm.
If people want to hear Kelvin's other interviews, he's on episode 208 and
Mhm,
271.
mhm.
And talk to the camera. Tell them how to find you, how to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
you.
So yeah, so once again, Kelvin Durant here, a New You Counseling Center, as and the newly a New You Speaks. Um, I'm a super excited about this new business. Once again, I can be reached on Facebook. A New You Speaks LLC is the page, and a new. I have to keep forgetting sometimes. A New You. I've got too many pages, and a New You Counseling Center. Excuse me, page. Also on Instagram, the same name, a New You Speaks, also as well as a New You Counseling Center. My address, 901 West Evans Street, Florence, South Carolina. The website is a New You Counseling Center.com. Yeah, please use those avenues to reach out to me. You can also book speaking engagements on that website. I have a page on that website as well, New You Speaks. So yeah, it's all things. I'm all things mental health. Book me to come to your organization, your church, your school, your business. You want to do a lunch and learn for your staff, book Kelvin Durant with the New You Speaks. I'm definitely excited about this. I thank Josh for allowing me to come here and speak about my new business.
Any of my friends out there that have podcasts, I want to have Kelvin come on and talk. If it helps reach more of an audience, I'm
Mhm,
sure I'd be happy to do that. You
mhm,
guys reach out to
mhm,
me or through him, doesn't
mhm,
matter. Um, but the main goal here is just to help people. Again, you can't help anybody else until you help yourself. And if you're
absolutely.
struggling with something,
Mhm,
just
mhm.
know that it's okay to ask for
Yeah,
help.
yeah, and so yeah. Once again, I still do weekly posts, you know, on my Facebook, and my nephew, Anthony Jackson, he actually works for me. He does an amazing job with those posts, and so he comes with the post and he runs it by me and say, "Hey, I think I want to post this today," and he does a great job. He just graduated college a few years, I mean, about a year ago, so he does an amazing job with that. So yeah, please, like the post, share this when we're gonna post this podcast. Share this podcast, to everyone, and encourage them to contact Kelvin Durant to do some speaking engagements. And before I go, I definitely got to shout out my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, King Street Alumni Chapter. And the reason why I said that because we have a March of Dimes event going on now. So if you can you hear me?
It's the spring.
Okay.
You tap the spring.
Sorry.
I got to get better holders.
I know, right? Well, I'm sorry. So King Street Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, we have a March of Dimes event going on. And so I encourage you to go to King Street Noops Facebook page and donate to that great cause. So yeah, please do that. But cool. Thank you once again for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to come on and talk about anything.
Yeah, I know.
It don't always have to be about mental health.
Yeah, maybe I need to just talk about. I don't know. If I find something to talk about, what can I talk about? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Talk about anything. I don't have to find something to talk about besides mental health. Because I'm more than just mental health, So,
I know that. They don't know that. But I know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, we can definitely find something to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ask me some questions. I don't know. Somebody just do something. What do you like to do for fun?
If y'all have any questions for Kelvin that you want me to ask, send it to the website, www.stuffiheard.com. And I'll post those questions to him and we'll do a little Q&A thing. Or if you guys want to do a live one, we could do a live one.
Yeah.
Just let me know and we'll go from there.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about, Josh, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, I was thinking about that, doing like a go live Sunday, like a mental health Sunday, have people QA in and ask questions about mental health. So that might be a good idea. I just want to throw that in the atmosphere. So I don't know.
Maybe. If anybody's interested, let me know. We'll be sure to do something like that. If you guys want it, just let me know.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this. Check out Kelvin everywhere that he mentioned, and I'll post some links on the page, and we'll wrap this up by telling everybody, cue the cow.
All right. Thanks a lot.
So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.